The courtroom was not made of stone. It floated in the stars, built from silver, black glass, and glowing rings of light. It was the Galactic High Court, where only the biggest decisions in the galaxy were made. It had judged wars, destroyed empires, and punished species. But today, it was quiet. Too quiet. Every seat was filled. Thousands of alien species sat in rows that floated in the air. From the sharp-toothed Kernax to the glowing-skinned Eliari, even the cold-eyed warlords from the Red Nebula came. All had come for one reason, to watch the trial of a human. A small platform stood in the center of the room, and on it, alone, unarmed and silent, stood the last living human soldier. His name was Kai Ren. He looked different from the aliens. No bright colors, no horns or wings, just skin, eyes, breath, and silence. He wore a simple black shirt and gray pants. No chains, no guards. The court didn't think he needed them. Why would they? Earth was destroyed. Humanity was finished. They believed he was weak. The Grand Speaker floated forward on his golden seat. His voice echoed across the court. Let the final trial begin. The accused, human, named Kai Ren. Crime, war against the galaxy. Outcome, death or memory wipe. Speak now, Kai of Earth. Speak your last words. The courtroom waited. No one expected much. Maybe a cry for help. Maybe an apology. The crowd whispered, he should beg. Humans are just violent apes. His world burned like paper. But Kai didn't beg. He didn't kneel. He stood straight and calm. His eyes were not angry. They were sharp, like something was hidden behind them. Then he finally spoke. 2 words, simple, quiet, clear. I remember. The courtroom froze. For a few seconds nothing moved. No voice, no laughter, no whispers. Then, something strange happened. The lights flickered. The floating rings above began to hum. The energy walls shook. One of the Kernax guards looked at his device. It was dead. No signal. The Grand Speaker's chair sparked. Even the air felt heavier, thicker. Error, a machine whispered. Unknown transmission. Signal breach. Warning. The aliens looked around, confused. What did he say? What does I remember mean? Why are systems failing? Kai said nothing more. He stood still. A Zixian scientist rushed to her screen. Her species had 4 arms, and she used them all to scan Kai's body. This doesn't make sense, she said. He has no tech, no implants, but his brain just sent out a signal, stronger than any known race. The Grand Speaker stood up. Is this a weapon? No, the scientist said. It's worse. It's a memory. Outside the courtroom, alarms went off across the galaxy. Old Earth satellites, long thought to be dead, suddenly powered up. Hidden data caches started opening. On the moon of Daros, a forgotten human vault unlocked itself. On the red planet, a machine whispered, "Protocol triggered. He remembers." Back inside the courtroom, panic grew. "Shut him down." Someone yelled, "Use memory suppressors. Destroy the human." But nothing worked. Guards ran to Kai, trying to grab him, but the moment they touched him, they fell back. Not hurt, just overwhelmed. One began crying, another screamed, a third dropped to the floor, whispering. I saw Earth. A screen lit up on the wall. It played images, old ones, a blue planet, cities full of people, forests, oceans, music, laughter, fire, war, rockets, children, tears. All of Earth's history, all of its pain, all of its strength. It played fast, too fast. It was not just showing history, it was sending it. Aliens in the court clutched their heads. Some dropped their weapons, some held hands, some wept. The first time, they were feeling what humans had lived through. "This is not an attack," the Zixian scientist whispered. "It's a gift. He's sharing his memory, all of it. His pain, his fight, his hope." The Grand Speaker was shaking. "No, this is manipulation." The Eliari elder shook her head. "No, this is truth." Kai still stood silent. His eyes were closed now. His heart was beating slowly. His face looked calm. But his body was glowing. Faint white lines ran under his skin, like ancient energy had awakened. One Kernax general stepped forward. "What is the meaning of this?" he growled. "Explain, human." Kai finally opened his eyes. He looked straight at the general and said, "You burned our world. You laughed at our fall, but you forgot something." He took a slow breath. "Memory is not weakness. It's our greatest weapon." The court fell silent again. A young alien soldier watching from the back whispered to his commander. I feel like he's not alone," the commander nodded. "He isn't." In the cold darkness of space, ships without pilots began to move. Human drones, long forgotten, reactivated. An ancient satellite called Sentinel-0 pointed its lens toward the courtroom and blinked. The galaxy had won the war. They destroyed Earth. They killed billions. But now, one human stood alone, and that one human had just brought Earth back. Not with bombs, not with guns. With memory, the Grand Speaker. Looked down, shaking. "Why now, human? Why speak these words?" Kai stepped forward. His voice was calm, powerful. "Because the galaxy needs to remember what it tried to erase." He looked around the courtroom, at every race, every leader, every warrior. "You didn't kill us, you buried us. But the deeper you bury a seed, the stronger it grows when it returns." Far away, a child on a distant planet looked up. She had never seen Earth, never met a human. But now, through the waves of memory sent across the stars, she saw Kai. She felt his sorrow, his love, his rage, and she whispered, "I remember." The story had just begun, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. Not war, not revenge, but something far more dangerous. The courtroom was no longer quiet. After Kai spoke the words, "I remember," nothing felt normal. The walls hummed with strange energy. The lights blinked in slow, heavy waves. Machines failed. Weapons didn't respond. And the galaxy watched in silence. Kai stood still, calm, alone. But something invisible had awakened. The Grand Speaker shouted, trying to hide his fear. "Shut it down. Turn off all receivers." Technicians ran to panels. They pressed buttons, pulled wires, but nothing worked. Their screens only showed one thing, a white human symbol, a circle with 3 lines through it. It blinked again and again. A Zarni commander stood up, his 4 legs shaking. "This is impossible. The humans are gone. Earth is ash." The Zixian scientist looked pale, her voice trembled. "No, Earth is not gone, not truly. It remembers." In a dark lab, far across the stars, a scientist of the Velen race stared at a spinning cube. The cube hadn't moved in 200 years, but now it floated and glowed. "Is that," he whispered, "an Earth beacon?" His assistant nodded, slowly. The words, the human said them. It activated all of them. The scientist's voice dropped to a whisper. They were a code. In the galactic archives, hidden behind layers of security, alarms began to flash. A secret vault unlocked. Itself, inside was a folder, marked in red with a single word. "Remember." The file played an old human voice, calm, deep. "If you hear this, we are likely gone, but memory is not death. Memory is power. One will carry the spark, and when the time is right, he will speak the words. Let the stars shake. Let them feel the echo." Back in the courtroom, the aliens began to argue. This is mind control. No, it's a signal. He's attacking our minds. No, he's showing us something. The Grand Speaker stood and pointed at Kai. What are you? What did you do? Kai slowly opened his eyes. His voice was soft, but it cut through the room like a blade. I didn't attack, I remembered. The words hit harder than a weapon. Even the war-trained minds of the Red Nebula warriors felt strange. They were sweating, nervous. One commander clutched his chest. I feel pain, but not mine. Another soldier whispered, I see a world. Blue skies, green trees. Then, fire, screams, children crying. Why do I see this? Kai looked around, because for the first time, you're feeling what we felt. A young alien girl in the public seats covered her ears. I hear voices, so many voices. Her mother tried to hold her, but she too cried. They're not voices, dear. They're memories from the humans. In every corner of the galaxy, beings who heard Kai's words were feeling it too. Not sound, not thought. Memory, and it didn't stop. In the sky above the courtroom, satellites moved. One, long believed destroyed, opened its lens. It sent a wave down into the court. The signal hit the walls, the floor, the very minds of those inside. Suddenly they saw it, not through eyes, but through feeling. They saw Earth, not as an enemy, but as home. They saw oceans at night, families eating together, a mother rocking her baby to sleep, a young soldier writing a letter before war, a child waving goodbye as ships took off. They saw the fall, the sky raining fire, the ground shaking, human cities vanishing in silence. Not from weakness, but because they fought until nothing was left. They didn't beg. They endured, and now they remembered. A machine voice broke the moment. Energy rising, unknown frequency, signal repeating. The Zixian scientist gasped. He didn't just unlock the past, he's starting a chain reaction. The human memory isn't staying here, it's spreading. The Grand Speaker slammed his fist. Stop it. We can't, she shouted. The signal is bouncing between deep code archives. It's waking old systems, long-range satellites, military sleepers, hidden files. It's spreading to the void. In the silence between galaxies, where even light took millions of years to pass, an ancient structure blinked. Once a secret human station buried in ice. It lit up, then spoke one line in a broken human voice. Command key accepted. Final. Memory unlocked. Earth protocol. Online. Back in the court, the speaker's voice was less angry now, more scared. Why? Why do this? Why speak now? Kai didn't answer right away. He looked up, toward the stars. Then he said quietly, because you thought we lost. He turned toward the crowd. You thought one voice could not matter, that one man alone meant nothing. But you forgot what humans are made of. He stepped forward. No one stopped him now. The guards had backed away. The warlords sat, frozen. The scientists just stared. Kai looked directly at the Grand Speaker. We don't win with numbers or weapons. We win with will. We lose cities, we lose worlds, but we carry our dead in our minds. And when we remember them, we become them. He paused. I am not one, I am everyone who ever lived on Earth. For a long time, no one spoke. Then an old Eliari priest stood up. I feel him in my mind, she whispered. And I do not feel hate. I feel sorrow. And strength, another added. And love, said a third. The priest turned to the court. You feared Earth's fire, you feared its weapons, but this is worse. You never feared Earth's heart. In a warship orbiting nearby, alarms screamed. The captain watched as her controls blinked out, replaced with one message. Kai Ren has spoken. Activate memory echo. What is that? Her second asked. She stared at the screen. It's not a weapon, she whispered. It's a call. Suddenly, across the galaxy, old human machines activated, not bombs, not guns, but stories, messages, songs, videos, art, feelings. The galaxy, who once saw humans only as dangerous, now saw their truth. Not monsters, not enemies, survivors. Kai took one final step forward. His voice was calm, clear. You wanted my last words. He raised his head. I've spoken them. He closed his eyes again. Now, remember, in the dark space beyond known systems, something moved. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. It was old, built by hands now turned to dust. The object was called the Beacon of Ash. For 200 years, it had been quiet, sleeping, waiting. Now, because of one human, because of two words, it was awake. Inside the galactic court, Kai Ren stood tall. He had not moved. He had no weapon, but the walls around him still flickered with strange signals. Symbols from Earth floated in the air, dancing like fireflies. The Grand Speaker was pale. What is this memory protocol? He asked. The Zixian scientist stepped forward. Her voice was steady now. I've seen ancient human files. They spoke of something buried deep in their systems, a last gift, a last warning. She turned to the crowd. It was never a weapon to destroy. It was something stronger, something to make the galaxy remember. Back, on the edge of a dying star, a human drone ship flickered to life. Dust fell from its wings, its engines glowed. It broadcasted one message across the void. Protocol active. The memory returns. In a forgotten mining moon, an alien boy sat with his grandfather. Suddenly, a strange blue light filled their house. The walls showed images of Earth, forests, mountains, laughing people, burning cities, rockets flying into the sky. The boy asked, "What is this?" The old man's voice shook. "This is the truth. This is what they erased." Inside the courtroom, leaders from many worlds began receiving transmissions, images, voices, feelings. Some stood up. Some cried. Some couldn't look because the memory protocol wasn't just history. It was experience. They were seeing Earth die. And still the humans never stopped fighting. Kai looked around. He saw the fear in some eyes, the guilt in others. And, most of all, he saw something new, understanding. He spoke. "You bombed our cities. You destroyed our sky. You called us monsters. But when we were dying, we sang lullabies to our children. We helped strangers. We whispered hope through fire." He stepped closer to the edge of the platform. "That's the part you didn't see. That's what I bring back now." The Grand Speaker shook his head. "You want revenge?" Kai looked at him, not with anger, but something colder. "No, I want truth." He pointed up toward the glowing images in the air. "You erased us, from maps, from books, even from memory, but we left something behind. A final seed, a code, hidden in a human's mind. Me." The crowd began to whisper. "He's a carrier, a living memory vault." He was trained to awaken it. One warlord stepped forward. He looked angry. "But why now? Why not earlier?" Kai answered with calm steel in his voice. "Because now you are weak. Your empire is cracking. Your people are tired. And you're young. Ask questions." This was the time to remember. At that moment, a message appeared in the sky above. The court. A giant projection. A human woman's face, gentle, calm. Her voice echoed. "If you are watching this, we are gone. But we were never silent. We left our love, our stories, our strength in one of us. And if he speaks the words, then Earth is not dead. Earth is reborn. The Eliari priest knelt, her voice soft. This is more than justice. This is awakening. Even the brutal Kernak's general lowered his head. We feared their fire, but their memory, it burns deeper. Suddenly, one of the warlords drew a plasma blade. He pointed it at Kai. He is dangerous. We must kill him before the signal spreads further. He leaped forward, but something stopped him mid-air. Not a force field, not a guard. His own body froze. He dropped the blade and fell to his knees. What is this feeling? He grabbed his head. I see. A father holding his dying son. A soldier staying behind to stop a bomb. A teacher giving her last food to a child. He gasped. Why does it hurt? Kai stepped forward slowly. Because your mind can't block it. Memory is not just data, it is weight. You've never carried the weight of Earth. Now you do. Outside, across space, something brighter began. From distant stations to hidden satellites, an ancient human signal synced together. It spoke one line. We are gone, but not lost. The galactic court began to change. Leaders stepped down from their chairs. Citizens floated from their seats. Some bowed, some cried, some placed their hands over their hearts, an old Earth sign of respect, because they were no longer watching a trial. They were witnessing the return of something bigger, the soul of a people. The Grand Speaker spoke again, voice trembling. What do you want, Kai Ren? Do you want power, war, revenge? Kai shook his head. I want none of that. He looked up into the sky above. I want one thing. For the galaxy, to remember who we were, who we are. Then, he said something strange, softly, like a whisper, but it echoed through every corner of the room. It's not over. The sky cracked with light. The stars outside began to shift. A large object was approaching, slow, ancient, silent. It was not alien. It was human. The beacon of ash had arrived, and it was opening. Inside it, no soldiers, no bombs, just something, shining a message, a map, and one more name. Kai Ren, memory bearer. The courtroom stared in silence, because now they understood. This was not one man's victory. This was Earth's return, not with weapons, but with truth, with memory, with unbreakable will. A shadow passed over the stars. The beacon of ash, massive, ancient, forgotten, moved slowly toward the galactic court. No engines, no weapons, no crew, yet it was feared more than 1,000 warships. Inside the courtroom, everyone stood frozen. The signals, the memories, the feelings, they all pointed to that object in space, a gift left by Earth, their last gift. Kai Ren didn't speak. He just stared at the beacon. His eyes were wide, but calm, like someone watching the past come back home. The Zixian scientist stepped beside him. You knew it would come. Kai nodded slowly. I didn't know when. Only that when the words were spoken, it would return. What is it? She asked. He answered softly. A message, a lesson, and a choice. The Grand Speaker finally found his voice. That thing is old. How is it even still functioning? The Eliari priest whispered. It was built not to fight, but to endure. In orbit, dozens of alien fleets powered their weapons, but their targeting systems failed. All scanners showed one message. Do not fire. This is memory. Admirals gave orders to strike, but their ships refused. Every AI system locked. The beacon had one shield: history. Inside the courtroom, the holograms shifted again. Earth's cities appeared. Not when they were dying, but when they were alive. Children laughing in the snow, old men fishing by rivers, a couple dancing in a kitchen, a soldier reading poetry in a trench. No blood, no fire, just life. A voice from the beacon echoed across the room. Before you feared us, we lived. Before you attacked us, we dreamed. This is what was stolen. Suddenly the courtroom floor began to glow. A circle opened beneath Kai's feet, not to drop him, but to invite him. The beacon had sent a gate, a direct link. Kai looked around once, then stepped into it, and vanished. On board the beacon of ash, Kai opened his eyes. The inside was quiet. White walls, soft lights, and in the center, a single chair. He walked to it. A panel opened. It scanned his face, then his voice. Kai Ren, confirmed, last of Earth's memory carriers. A voice, familiar but not known, spoke. Would you like to show them the truth? Kai whispered, yes. Back in the courtroom, the floor began projecting again. But this time, not just images, it was a full experience. The aliens didn't see. They felt. They were in a forest, green, alive. Then a classroom full of laughter. Then a spaceport, rockets, flying, people cheering. And then, the end. Mushroom clouds, sky burning, mothers covering their children. Last messages sent into space. The aliens gasped. Some fell to their knees. Some wept. The Grand Speaker covered his eyes. We did this, the warlords whispered among themselves. We thought Earth struck first. They didn't. They only defended. And when we broke their home, they still hoped. Inside, the beacon. Kai sat in silence. He didn't need to speak anymore. The gift was working. Not a threat. Not a trap. A mirror. For the galaxy to see what it had become, and what it tried to erase. Suddenly, one of the courtroom walls opened. A hidden vault, sealed for 100 years, unlocked itself. Inside was a broken object, a human violin, dusty, silent, forgotten. The Eliari priest walked up to it. She gently brushed the dust away. Her fingers trembled as she held it. Then she cried. Why? Why were they destroyed? They were not just warriors. They were beautiful. An old alien general stood up. His voice shook. We crushed them, but we never won. We feared their anger, but this is worse. They forgive. In the beacon, Kai stood. He gave the last command. Begin final sequence. The walls changed. One last message. It played in every language, on every world. We are Earth. We are gone. But if you remember us, if you carry us forward, not as soldiers but as people, then we live again. You can choose to forget and fall, or you can choose to remember and rise. The beacon began to shut down. Its job was done. It had given the last gift, a choice. In the courtroom, all eyes turned to the Grand Speaker. He stood still, then sat, quiet. We cannot hide this anymore. Let the galaxy see it all. From that day forward, Earth's story was taught in every school. Its songs played in every corner of space. And the name Kai Ren was spoken with respect, not as a warrior, but as the one who remembered. The stars were quiet, but something deep inside the galaxy had started to burn again. Not a weapon, not revenge, a fire. One they had tried to kill. Long ago, Earth's enemies believed if they destroyed the planet, the people would vanish too. They burned the cities. They erased the name Earth from galactic records. They silenced the humans, or so they thought. But now, the silence was broken. Kai Ren had left the beacon of ash. He returned to the courtroom. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. The galaxy was already listening, but not everyone was happy. In a hidden moon called Yorak 9, 5 warlords met in secret. Their eyes were sharp, their armor old, their hearts full of fear. He's just one man, but he's starting a fire in their minds. We must stop him before the spark spreads. The oldest warlord looked into the dark. Then we must strike where it hurts. Back on the galactic homeworld, Kai was walking through the streets. People followed him, not with weapons, but with questions. Aliens, young and old, asked, what were trees really like? Is it true Earth had blue oceans? Did your people really sing in the dark? Kai answered with stories, simple ones, powerful ones. He told them about a girl who played piano during an air raid, about a firefighter who carried strangers out of a burning building, about a boy who smiled before stepping into the cold to save others. He didn't speak of war, he spoke of fire, the kind that never dies. But that night, as he rested in his small quarters, they came. Not soldiers, not machines, assassins. They moved without sound. 3 shadows, trained killers, no emotions. Their job was clear. Silence the spark. One stood above Kai, a blade in hand. He whispered, "You spoke 2 words. Now we end them." But the moment he moved, he stopped. Not because of a weapon, but because of the eyes staring back at him. Kai wasn't afraid. He didn't scream. He just looked at the assassin and whispered, "I've already won." The assassin trembled. He saw something in Kai's gaze, not anger, not fear, conviction. And then the assassin saw something worse, memories not his own. They flooded his mind, images of Earth, laughter, fire, hope. Tears rolled down his face. He dropped the blade. "What is this feeling?" Kai stood slowly. "It's what you tried to destroy. But it's still alive." The assassins fled, not from death, but from truth. They had never seen a man stand without armor and still make them fall. The next day, something unexpected happened. The assassin returned. He walked into the court, alone, head down, and he knelt. "I was sent to kill you," he said, "but you made me feel something I forgot." He stood and shouted, "I was a killer, but now I choose to remember." Then he turned to the galaxy's leaders. "I am not the only one." Across the stars, more began to speak. Old soldiers, forgotten slaves, farmers, smugglers, mechanics, all saying one thing. "We remember Earth." The old warlords panicked. "This is spreading. Even our own are turning." But they were too late. The fire had caught the wind. Kai Ren stood once more before the court. He looked different now, not taller, not stronger, just brighter. He spoke only a few words. "This is not about me. It's about what you can't kill." "Hope," the Grand Speaker asked. "Then what now, Kai Ren?" Kai looked up. "Now, the galaxy decides. Will you follow the ones who fear memory? Or will you light your own fire?" In a nearby system, a ship that had been dead for years powered on. A human flag glowed on its side. It had no weapons, only books, thousands of them, and a new voice, a child's voice. "I am the archive. I carry Earth's stories." The galaxy watched as that ship jumped into open space. Others followed it, aliens, not for war, but for learning, to remember what had been hidden, to carry the fire forward. Kai smiled, because even if someone destroyed him today, the fire was alive. Not in ships, not in machines, but in people, in memory. Far beyond the court, in the black heart of the galaxy, a giant fortress floated in silence. It was not a city. It was not a planet. It was the core throne, the control center of the oldest and most powerful empire, the Zarn Dominion. Inside its golden halls, the High Lords sat in fear. Not of ships, not of weapons, of words. A messenger had arrived earlier that day. He brought no threat, no demands, just a message, 5 seconds long. They remember it's spreading. And below those words, 2 more. He spoke. The High Lords had tried to erase Earth. They used fire, poison, lies, and time. But now, the words were crawling back through their own systems, through schools, through prayers, through songs whispered in back alleys. The name they buried, Earth, was alive again. Back. In the Galactic Court, Kai Ren stood near a wall of starlight. He was calm, but everyone around him felt the storm coming. The court's screens flashed red, incoming transmission from the Zarn High Seat. Human, you are poisoning the stars with your fire. Stop the memory protocol, or we will silence it forever. Kai didn't flinch. He answered with only 2 words, the same 2. We remember. That phrase had become something bigger than anyone expected. Aliens across space said it quietly in bunkers. We remember. In schools, children drew blue oceans and green forests, never having seen either. We remember. On warships, old veterans removed their medals, placing them on altars of peace. We remember. The phrase was not a threat. It was not even a cry. It was a break in chains, and the Empire felt it cracking everything they built. In the core throne, the High Lords panicked. One slammed his fist down. We burned them. We buried their truth. Another shouted, then bury it again. Send the mind killers. Send the censors. But it was too late. Even their soldiers were whispering the words. A fleet was sent to the Galactic Court. The largest armada since the Earth Wars. 50,000 ships. Thousands of warriors. All ready to crush the flame once and for all. The court prepared to evacuate, but Kai, he stayed. The Zixian scientist begged him, "You need to hide. You've done enough." He looked at her. "I haven't even started." When the Zarn fleet arrived, the sky went dark. Their ships formed a ring around the court planet. No escape, no mercy. Their leader appeared on every screen. "This is your last moment, human. Your words end here." But Kai Ren didn't run. He stepped outside the court building. The stars above him burned red with enemy ships. He looked up, then spoke, his voice loud, clear, steady. "I am not a soldier. I am not a threat. I am a memory. I am Earth." And then, he repeated the words, "We remember." Then, the unexpected happened. One Zarn ship powered down its weapons. Another turned away. Then 10 more. Inside those ships, soldiers watched the live feed of Kai's face. They felt something they were trained to ignore. Truth. Some wept. Some knelt. Some dropped their weapons and said softly, "We remember." The Zarn leader screamed at his forces, "Fire, fire now." But they didn't. The command was heard and ignored, because across the entire fleet, a virus had spread. Not a digital one, a mental one. Hope. The Empire broke that day, not with bombs, but with belief. Inside the core throne, the High Lords vanished. Some ran, some fell. One sat still, muttering. All it took were 2 words. Kai returned inside the court. He didn't smile, he didn't celebrate. He simply sat. The fire had spread. But there was still more to do. The next message from the beacon came into focus. Final protocol. The seed. What was it? A plan? A weapon? Future? Even Kai didn't fully know, but he would find out, because this time, the galaxy was watching. And for the first time in centuries, it listened. In the cold edge of the galaxy, hidden inside a dead system, there was a small moon. Nothing lived on it. No trees, no lights, no sound, only silence. And something buried deep, not metal, not a weapon, but a seed. The beacon of ash had sent a final signal before going silent, a single word, awaken. And hidden inside that message was a location, coordinates buried under old Earth code. Only a human could read it. Kai Ren found it. He stood before the Galactic Court. The seed was Earth's final plan. The Zixian scientist asked, confused. What kind of seed? A message? A ship? Kai shook his head. I don't know, but I know where it is. Every species offered him escorts, guards, scanners, warships. He refused. If this seed is truly from Earth, I must go alone. So they let him. The journey was long, through radiation storms, past broken satellites, over ancient graves. Finally, he landed on a moon with no name. The ground cracked under his boots. And then, he felt it. A heartbeat. He walked across a wide, flat field of dust. Then the ground opened. Not violently, like a flower blooming after 100 years of sleep. A stairway appeared, made of black stone, carved with human language. He walked down. No fear. Only silence. At the bottom, he entered a room, perfectly round, warm despite the cold outside. And in the middle, a tree, not real, but alive. Its roots were made of data, its branches, light, and on each glowing leaf, memories, laughter, pain, fire, peace, earth. The tree spoke. Not with sound, but with feeling, and Kai understood. This was Earth's last gift, not to fight, not to destroy, but to rebuild. The seed carried every memory from Earth, its art, its science, its voices, its pain, a backup of everything humans ever were, waiting for one thing, a reason to begin again. Kai stepped closer. A single phrase appeared in front of him. Will you plant the memory? He touched the base of the tree, and the world shook. Across the galaxy, something happened. Old satellites turned on, lost drones lifted off, forgotten human stations dark for 100 years flashed blue. The seed had awakened, but it didn't send fire. It sent stories. In every known language, aliens stopped their work to watch. A ship captain listened to a human lullaby. A warrior dropped his gun, hearing the sound of Earth's oceans. A machine intelligence paused its protocols. Watching a mother read a bedtime story from centuries ago. The galaxy cried. Not because they were hurt, because they were human for just a moment. In the court, the screens lit up. Every species saw the same words. This is not a return of Earth's power. This is the return of Earth's soul. The High Lords who survived the last collapse tried to shut the signal down. They failed, because now even their systems were singing Earth's songs. One of the last lords stood in the dark and whispered, "We feared their weapons, but this is stronger." Kai sat at the base of the tree. He spoke out loud, even though he was alone. You waited all this time, and now the galaxy is finally ready to listen. The tree answered back, not in words, but through visions, a field of green grass. Children building rockets from scrap, a teacher reading about the stars, an old man planting seeds in dry soil. Earth was not dead. It was waiting for someone to carry the flame, to protect it, to share it. Kai closed his eyes, and he knew what had to happen next. He stood and made a call to the Galactic Court. When his image appeared on the screen, his voice was soft. I found it. The seed. Earth didn't leave you war. It left you wisdom. And now, It's yours. He pressed his hand on the tree. The moon trembled. From the ground, small lights rose like fireflies. They carried data, memory, hope, and on hundreds of worlds. New trees began to grow, not of wood, but of light and memory. Tiny pieces of earth blooming in alien soil. The court went silent. Then slowly, leaders began to rise. One by one, they spoke. Let our children learn Earth songs. Let the stars carry their names. Let the seed grow. In that moment, the galaxy changed forever, not because of war, but because of one choice: to remember, to replant, to begin again. Kai looked up at the glowing tree and whispered, "They thought we were gone, but we were only waiting." For thousands of years, Earth had been silent, its voice lost, its name erased, its memory buried. But now, because of one human, the silence was broken. The galaxy didn't just hear Earth again, it felt it. And now, the galaxy was ready to speak back. The tree inside the hidden moon, the seed, continued to grow. Its glowing branches reached into space through signals and code. The stories of Earth spread faster than war ever had. No borders, no orders, just truth. On a mining world, children once raised in silence danced to Earth's ancient music. On a ship above a dead sun, a pilot recited Earth poems before a jump. In a deep swamp moon, even cold-blooded warriors sang human lullabies to their young. And one phrase spread everywhere: "We remember." But Earth's enemies were still out there, hiding, watching, waiting for the fire to die. And one of them had enough. His name was Varus Ken, once a Zarn general. Now a leader of the last holdouts who still hated Earth. He called himself the Cleanser. He sent a final warning: memory is a weakness. Hope is a lie. We will erase it again. He launched a fleet, not to attack the court, but to burn the seed. If they destroyed it, maybe the galaxy would forget again. Maybe silence would return. The warships approached the seed's moon, weapons charged, orders clear. But as they reached the final border, something unexpected happened. A wall of ships stood between them and the seed. Not warships, rescue ships, medical ships, science vessels, ships from 100 species, none designed for battle, but they refused to move. They formed a shield, not of guns, but of choice. Varus Ken shouted across the system, "Move or be destroyed." A single reply came through, "We remember." Then, something happened. A single voice broadcasted across every system. It wasn't human, it was alien, old, deep, full of sorrow. For centuries we stayed silent. We forgot Earth, because we were told to. But now, we choose to speak. Then more voices came, a farmer from Telnari 5. The stories helped my child sleep again. A soldier from the Creel front. I remembered what peace felt like. A young girl with green skin and glowing eyes. I want to be a human teacher when I grow up. Hundreds of voices, thousands of messages, all sent to Varus Ken's fleet. They weren't threats, they were truth. Inside his command ship, Varus Ken froze, his own crew. Some were crying, others lowered their weapons. One even stood and walked off the bridge. I remember Earth. Varus Ken shouted, "You are not human!" The officer replied, "No, but I'm starting to feel like one." The seed's defense had no fire. But still, the fleet turned away, not by force, by choice. Back at the seed, Kai Ren stood at the base of the glowing tree. The court connected with him one last time. The Grand Speaker asked, "Kai Ren, what will you do now?" He looked at the stars, then said, I will plant more. He began to travel, not as a warrior, but as a gardener of memory. He carried a fragment of the seed to every willing world. He didn't command them to remember. He simply invited them, and almost all said yes. Years passed. The phrase, "we remember," became more than words. It became a movement, a song, a way of life. Children on alien worlds learned to paint like Earth's artists. Writers mixed their language with human poetry. Even machines began storing emotion, not as data, but as feeling. And one day, an alien boy asked, "When can we visit Earth?" There was silence. Then Kai smiled. "Not yet, but someday, maybe we return. Not to a weapon, not to ashes, but to build again, because Earth was not dead. It lived in stories, it lived in choices, it lived in every creature brave enough to say, 'We remember.'" The galaxy was never the same, all because one human with no army, no armor, no weapon spoke just 2 words, and the stars listened.